Today's guest is someone with a story that's very different from most of the conversations we have on this show. But in a way, I think it will resonate with so many women who have ever gone through loss, reinvention, and the challenge of building something new when life doesn't go according to plan. I'm joined today by Marcie Dean, CEO of Electric Blue Communications and the founder and visionary behind LovEvolve Music. She's a former corporate tech leader with a background at companies like IBM and AWS, where she worked at the intersection of technology, user experience, and innovation. But Marcie's story took a dramatic turn after profound personal loss and a major professional transition. What emerged on the other side was a new creative path, one that blends technology, sound, healing, entrepreneurship, and a very different way of thinking about how people process emotion, stress, and transformation. What I find especially interesting about Marcie is that she is not coming at this from a purely artistic background. She comes from systems, structure, product thinking, human-centered design, and big tech leadership. And now she's applying that same mindset to music, healing experiences, and building something that does not fit neatly into a traditional box. So in today's conversation, we're talking about what happens when your life blows up, when the corporate path no longer fits, and when you feel called to build something unconventional. We will talk about grief, reinvention, creativity, nervous system support, entrepreneurship, and what it looks like to trust a new path, even when you can't fully explain it yet. Marcie, welcome to The Manager. Yay!
Thank you, Amy. So happy to be here. Honestly, been looking forward to this one.
Yay, me too. So you have such an interesting background because you spent years in corporate tech at such a high level before moving into the work that you're doing now. Could you start by giving us the arc of your professional story, what your life looked like before this major
Yeah,
pivot?
absolutely. I mean, the cool thing is, even though I was in tech, I was creative my entire life. My parents were both like into music, and my mom was an artist, and I was kind of pushed in different directions, but I always went for this design route, this art route, and knew exactly what I was going to do. Went to school for graphic design, and then I got picked up by IBM, ended up spending 18 years there, starting as a basic UX designer, visual designer, and then that evolved into different team leadership and then management, senior management roles for some big name products that they had. And then during the COVID time period, interestingly enough, it opened up the floodgates for companies to hire without worrying about location. So I was getting hit up by recruiter after recruiter, basically narrowed it down to offers from Amazon Web Services, which is AWS. A lot of people ask me, what is that? And then Google. And I made this choice to go to AWS. It was a great package and it was a senior management level role. People warned me it's difficult at AWS. And I thought, no, I'm good at getting my job done in less time than most people do. It was culture. And so that was an interesting shift for me. But in that same time period, I left a marriage that was not healthy for either of us or our kids. But, you keep kind of trying to hang in there. That's basically what leads up to the next chapter of my life of what has suddenly shifted since then.
Wild. So a lot of the women who are listening are in some kind of transition, career, identity, grief, or entrepreneurship. So this wasn't just a career pivot for you. It was also connected to a deep personal loss. Would you mind sharing your story with us? What happened that changed it all?
Absolutely. So I actually, I met a once in a lifetime soulmate after leaving that marriage. I moved into the house that was something like I had drawn as a kid. It's like my dream home. It's not something like huge fancy, but it's just this unique house. And I'm meeting this person and I'm thinking, oh, everything's finally coming together because I'm making shifts in my life with the career and the marriage and all that. And he and I had this like really deep soul level connection, but I started having fears that something was going to happen to him. And I talked to him about it. And so we talked about things. We started living life like every day was its last, right? We just wanted to really embrace that because I was hoping it wasn't fear, but I was like a little OCD and I'm like, let's get your health checked out, all that. But about 6.5 months in, actually, he moved in with me. He had this beautiful son. I had my daughters. I thought this was like the next chapter of my life. And Father's Day weekend of 2023, we went to go boating with friends. And that was always another thing for me. My dad had passed 10 years prior. He was a boat captain. So being on the water felt absolutely divinely guided, but he did not come back alive. We were out there and there's a private island outside of North Carolina, Wilmington area, and you can dock on the sound side and it's beautiful. People have all their like picnic gear out, kids are playing, and then on the other side is an unobscured beach. And I happened to be sitting back on the boat after lunch when we'd all been on the sound side when everyone else went the other direction. I thought that John, my partner, was going to come back by after he took his son to find a place to use the bathroom. And I'm waiting. And I'm finally like, okay, what's going on? So I go around to the aftermath where my daughter comes running to me and tells me something happened to John. And I see people doing chest compressions on him. I went through a whole blurry point of everything at that point. I can't tell you what happened between that and me being somehow boated to the mainland and an son, but he saved his son's life in a rip current and he did not make it.
That's
and
right.
then after that, just to kind of tie into the career part, is that I took a grief leave, which I was a little resistant because I thought maybe if I just get back to work, I'll be okay. But I still felt this connection to him. And because we had talked about this, he always made the comment, like, if anything ever happens to me, I'll communicate with you through music. We bonded over music, stuff that my ex-husband and I and his ex-wife and him weren't really always aligned on. But we were like, oh, remember this band from back in the day? And so I was like, great. Please, Spotify playlist me, whatever you want to send. But when I returned from grief leave, I was feeling this deeper connection, this deeper pull to do something different. And I was laid off because there's a new return to office policy. And if you know anything about what's going on with corporate these days, now we add AI into the mix, but there's lots of shifts. And only a month after that, my brother actually passed of a fatal overdose. And so it was like boom, 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 like less than 6 months, my entire life changed. And that made me foreign to a lot of my friends. They didn't even know what to do for me. People I had known for years, family members, like everything started to kind of disintegrate in different directions. And, you know, at the same time, I was feeling very divinely led into audio work. And I'm like, yeah, my parents tried to get me to play flute and piano. And I was like, no, I don't want to learn this. Like, let me get out of this any way I can. I loved music, but trying to learn to read sheet music or anything was an absolute no. One day I was just guided, like, make a song. And I'm like, oh, there's a thing called GarageBand on my computer that I've never used. So I did. And meanwhile, I've met this other wonderful man who was one of the first people who understood what I was going through. And he was just a friend to me. He helped me out with stuff around the house that John hadn't taken care of. He's actually got a music background. He's like, Marcie, I don't know what you're doing, but you're doing it all backwards, breaking production rules. I'm like, I'm just being guided. So next thing I know, I'm making this music. And 2 years plus now, I've made over 400 tracks and no experience. And it's wild how much my entire life shifted.
That's awesome. So do you think that grief strips away performance and forces something more honest?
It absolutely does. And then it's kind of hard that we're still living in the systems that say you've got to pay your bills, you got to do these things and these things and these things, and to pioneer something so different. Because what I did discover by not going and reading the rules of audio technology is a way to bring in different frequencies that I have a proprietary process. It's patentable. That at first I thought this was just a grief gift. I still thought I'll keep applying to corporate jobs. I'll go back. That's been always like pushed away. Like, you're not going that way is all I get. But the more I shared my music, the more I connected with people online that were also kind of in this journey of awakening to their true purpose. People who were entrepreneurs. Again, I didn't even understand entrepreneurship. I was the soccer mom. I was the corporate leader. And I was everyone knows me as this mainstream Marcie. I've always been empathic. I've always been tapped in, but I wasn't like ever into any kind of like out there stuff. And I'm not building healing tracks or doing woo things. So I was sharing this music, and then the responses from other people were so profound that I was blown away. Being that I've come from user experience, I gave a lot away free up front. But I'm very thankful I did, because when you're pioneering something new, I was like discovering and then researching. It wasn't like I went out to build a business. I'm suddenly realizing, oh, wait, I'm an entrepreneur now. This was not something Marcie consciously chose. So just seeing the impact and going with it has been totally out of the box. I was always a little bit of the out of the box thinker, but never would I have. If you told me 5 years ago that this is what I'd be doing with my life, I would have laughed, right? This is not at all what I believed.
So you're an accidental entrepreneur then?
Absolutely.
And now you're creating music and sound experiences that can support people emotionally? Like
Emotionally, physically. I mean, it's been, and this is where like the testing continues to go on, and different people are impacted in different ways. Some of my adversaries are musicians who are like, that doesn't sound right because it doesn't go the way my partner, for example, who's like, that's not how production works. But he's like, if I had stepped in your way and told you how to do it, you wouldn't have discovered what you did. You wouldn't have perfected what you did. So I've spent like 5,000 hours just completely dedicated to divine guidance and to building these tracks a certain way. And I've had people that are healing from trauma, people who have substituted it for addiction problems. Like literally they can tap into this music. And I say, if people listen to it like medicine, as in do it regularly, not just one off, but within 5 minutes, most people feel something from it. But when they use it regularly, it helps with their emotional and mental state. A lot of people are like, I'm envisioning things for my life. I'm seeing myself ice skating. I'm like, it takes them to a place that is outside of the normal overthinking brain. So a big majority of the people end up being neurodivergent, overthinkers, anxiety ridden, which is what I suffered from, where I'm like, this music was saving me. The creation process is a whole nother thing, but just the impact of the frequency work and the layers and the way that I've been guided to build, it's not like a typical sound bath. It's not spa meditation music. It's genre bending, out there, really interesting stuff. So
It really is. Well, I actually found you on Threads, and I think I saw a post that was like something about frequency music. And I was like, well, that's kind of cool because, on social media, you see a lot of stuff about like frequency generators. Like I have a
right.
Bexley, I have a Schumann. I love them. I play with like earth frequency. Lately, I'm playing with 432, which is like a frequency that's really good for sleep.
And a heart frequency.
It's the love frequency. Yeah, and I've been sleeping with it the last few nights, and I really have been sleeping super good. And so I'm understanding that basically frequency goes in hertz and basically goes from like 0 to what, like 1,000 or something?
No, the interesting part is, again, me discovering music and how production works. There's a lot of things that are capped off. And what I've learned is that in our digital tech world that we're living in now, unless you're actually going to a sound bath or you're out there doing tribal drumming or you're in nature all the time, in the digital world, we're actually being like suffocated from like, we're being cut off from the actual healing frequencies that can exist. So when I say I was breaking all the production rules, I was blasting everything because I felt this connection to John, his promise to communicate through music. I did not believe would be, oh, you're going to be a musician now and you're going to, but no, like this connection went on, and being able to tap into that level of like spiritual awareness and bring frequencies through by doing things that might hurt other people's ears at first, but then I'm doing this extra processing where I'm kind of treating instrumental layers like voice. So I'm bringing back what sounds like a root language, what sounds like a foreign language. And the interesting part is with the language layered with the music and the way that I build, it overrides that analytical brain, that brain that doesn't want to shut off, because you feel like you can even look up like research about listening to foreign music that you don't understand versus the lyrics that get stuck in your head, where, you can't get bop out of your head. Like that's a very different thing. And so again, everything I've done is like, go ahead and do it and then go research why it's working. And it's been such a crazy journey. So
That's so wild. So what first made you realize that sound and music might be more than entertainment, that they could actually support healing or emotional processing?
well, again, so when I first discovered this and I'm being pushed, I was like, this is just another like thankful, like God-given gift that I have. But it was the responses that other people were having from it, and the fact that I had chronic anxiety. Like I've lived with anxiety my entire life, and now I've gone through severe like grief. And I talk about grief with people, and I counsel people, or not counsel, but like coach people through grief is not just somebody that you've lost, which I have gone through that, but like the career identity and that shift, that was the longest relationship I've ever had. All these things kind of equate to that. And in spite of all that, where I might have freaked out over the littlest thing, like I didn't like it, I freaked out as a kid if I turned in a paper late or I got a bad grade. Now I've gone through serious loss, including my corporate identity. And when I was building this music, like I felt a calm no matter what was going on. And it's really hard to be there. And there's still, I'm on a human existence plane, and I have a roller coaster of emotions, and I have days that are harder than others. But throughout all of this music, this gift was helping me stay stable and calm in situations that I'm like, I shouldn't be calm in this situation. And so again, just continuing to research that and connect with other people that have been into sound healing, that have done more research on more of the analog versions of this. It's just been wild to actually understand. They're doing tons of research on how they use certain frequencies for cancer treatments and things that are not always publicly knowledgeable. Like it's a thing. So
Yeah, I mean, I was familiar with the Rife machine, which is really old school, and I know he was using it to like treat parasites and
yeah.
different, pathogens and cancer and all kinds of stuff like back in the olden days. And it's like a frequency generator basically that you hold in your hands. It's interesting that frequency seems to be like a part of the bigger picture for the future of healing. It seems like this might be the future on some level, some sort of the future of medicine. It definitely seems like it's another modality that can heal humanity on some level.
Absolutely. And that's actually one of the things that, again, just from my own learning, I was kind of not, I wasn't guided to go chase down all the current research before I discover something. Then I ask why. I ask how. I do that research. But I kind of have a theory that, again, we have energy bodies. We're energy. Everyone knows, no matter what you believe in, that energy cannot be created nor destroyed, all that. So I feel like we all have a unique frequency signature. And the more I've worked with clients building custom tracks. What's wild is I am tapping into this intuitive flow and I'll build a custom track for people. And what comes through in the building, like sometimes like the most calm guy ever that was loving my music, I made a track for him and it came back like some high speed EDM. So when I say this is not just mellow spa music, it's not. It's like, okay, it's the widest range of music. He was like, this is exactly what my nervous system needs. And I was in shock. I questioned it at first, but I just, again, trust my intuition. I've realized like our nervous systems are as unique as our personalities and they don't always match. So what someone may come across like, that's not necessarily what their nervous system needs. You might seem really calm and you need some high speed things to keep you there. And other people may seem like they're all over the place and they need something more mellow. And so I literally can basically build anything. I'm not a fan of country music and I still ended up building something that sounded a little twangy for one of my clients and she looked a little punk rock. So I was like, again, going, I don't know if this is right for you. She's like, I love country, but that's about where my limits go. But it's been a beautiful journey to actually just kind of tap into what somebody's needs are. And then not only have I elevated and kind of like flipped the frequency range up to a point where if our physical devices have a control range, you can only turn your computer up to a certain thing or a TV up to a certain volume level. I can play my music with the way I've shifted it at like an 11 when you needed it 100 to listen to the TV show. So there's a lot that I'm learning beyond even, the work that I'm doing for individuals, just about how we have honestly ended up in this very digital world that things are being compressed in a way and shut down in a way that we're not getting that natural healing. So
yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons I have the frequency generator in my room is because, humans used to sleep on the earth and there wasn't electricity and there weren't, cell phone towers and Wi-Fi. And so our bodies are used to this frequency. What is it? 7.32 or something like that. That's earth. And so your body is now being interrupted by frequencies that are not the original OG frequencies that human bodies evolved with, right? So I'm glad. And I even understand when we made the shift with music, production music, it used to be in a different frequency and they actually shifted it.
yeah, yeah. That was the first phase of it all. And I've heard different stories, different people. Again, I feel like history, everything I've learned from this is like there's a lot of things that we were lied to about, like different versions of whatever stories. And depending on what history book you read or what encyclopedias you had at one point, you just got to take whatever they say. But yes, there was a transition during the Hitler phase of
That's
things.
right.
They shifted things. And again, this is all my learning after the fact, but I feel like what I've learned is like we as humans have as souls, whatever, we have a very specific like frequency signature. So imagine like pi, it could go on forever, or your own phone number, your own everything. And within our voice, there's a lot of stuff I've done with like understanding that you can get a read on how your body's doing, how you're like aligned in certain ways just by a recording of your voice. And when I remember John, because I spent so much time with him in this like tapped in phase, I could hear him still. So I could feel his energy and feel that out in different sounds, even if no one else heard it. It's like you can hear everyone that you love, you can connect to everyone you love, and everyone has a very unique frequency signature. So I call it like a radio. When you're not aligned with whatever you're supposed to be doing, when you feel off or anything, it's like you can just tune the dial a little bit to kind of get to the right station you want to be on for your life to go in a completely different way. And some days when we're feeling off, we're like in that static, right? So it's like certain ways of intentionally tuning yourself in to what you want for your life and what you want for that day is really like big.
Yeah, totally. Almost like harmonizing our signature. So sometimes we can get thrown off. Our frequency can get thrown off by, it could be sadness or grief, or it could be something that may upset us. But
Yeah.
it's like, resetting, basically reharmonizing the nervous system so that we can be in the frequency that we're supposed to be in, optimal frequency range for our unique signature.
And that's one of the cool things with the music that I've used it within like team collaborative meetings or with practitioners. There's a way to align frequencies with who you're talking to. So I don't know if anyone works corporate still or is in one of those meetings where you're like, I am just not picking up on what's going on here. And I mean, maybe you're in just a bad meeting because those happen too. But many people come in from their previous engagement and jump right into something and everyone's off. And how many people are actually listening or just trying to chime in to answer. So I would use this with different teams that I worked with and other practitioners as a level setting tool. So we'd listen to a track at the beginning and you just watch everyone come in more calm. Like we've just aligned our frequency by using the frequencies in this music to be on the same page. And then the conversation would be so much more fluid, which was one of the coolest things that I came out of, because I don't know how many times I'm meeting jumped in life and work and I'd be so stressed and not be able to tap in. So,
well, whatever we can do as humans to help us communicate better, because I feel like spoken language is one of our biggest limitations as beings on the earth right now, and I feel like poor communication can lead to war and all kinds of horrific things. And it's, the more we can perfect communication with one another, the better off we will be as a species.
And so that's where, when I was kind of guided to build a business before I made LovEvolve Music, it was Electric Blue Communications. And that actually is about extending communication. Again, people who are going through grief, and there are a lot of people who are like, I just want a sign. I've heard other people have signs from their loved ones. I was tapped in enough to John's to get those signs and see them clearly. And I've actually been able to help people through the grief to tap into that as well. But it's about the fact that we are such a mess because of misinterpretation of language. So we're speaking the same language, but the way that we receive, especially how many times a text message comes through and whatever you're feeling towards that person, you feel something. I've told people so many times, if you're feeling emotions towards anyone, even if they are typically bad mouthing you or a bad person, go back, put the phone down, go back and read it as if it is from your best friend and see if you don't see something different, because I think so many fights happen that way. And then we have this ever growing like autism spectrum, nonverbal kids, these things that are just more prevalent these days. And there's a huge disconnect on like, how do we understand them? And the more we can actually tap into the nonverbal cues, the energetic cues, the better our entire like existence would be, right? I know it's not always easy, but it's definitely important.
Well, it's been amazing. That's one of the things that you've been kind of moving towards in your work, is kind of creating a bridge for families with kids who are neurodivergent, using frequency music to do that. What's been some of your experience with that? What have you seen?
So as I said, so John saved his son's life, and his son was actually on the autism spectrum. This kid was verbal and he was very smart and he was very emotionally intelligent, but he would kind of talk in like puzzling ways. And he just said certain things where I was like, I hadn't spent that much time around someone with a formal autism diagnosis where like I had such a passion and love for his son that I was like, John, this kid's not autistic. He's like a psychic. He has these profound statements and he only says what really matters. He's not going to get into the weeds of all the side talk that most of us do. He just really had profound things to say. In this whole journey, I felt like we were guided like through this purpose that we have to help bridge the gap, to help the adults heal and break the generational curses that we're all here trying to break. And we don't want to repeat our parental cycles and their parental cycles. And these kids are wired in a way like for spirit almost, where they can't repeat those patterns because they're not wired that way. But then there's this big gap of how they don't fit into our societal norms, the school systems that are still going on like they were in the 50s. Like I got teenage daughters and I'm like, they still have you do all that. Like there's no shift for as much as we've shifted. And so I've worked with a few parents with nonverbal kids specifically, and some others that are verbal but on the autism spectrum. And I help them by creating custom tracks. And I let the kid choose, and the parent is there. So if I'm not getting the perfect nonverbal cues, I typically can, because I've been more tapped into that. Even over a Zoom call, they select certain sounds and I can see if they are feeling them or not. So they're selecting the sound base that is resonant with their nervous system. And then I go build this custom track. I do all my mastering and frequency filtering. And then again, this root language that's woven through it allows them to like just kind of shut down all the stimulus that's around them typically. And it helps adults even like tap into more of their intuition or deeper levels of consciousness. But what I've learned is that these kids light up like somebody's finally speaking their language. Instead of a parent going, you need to say that the right way. Please speak, please speak, please speak. The pressure that's put on the kids that are already struggling, it's like you come into a language where you probably comprehend something so much bigger and different that it feels like, if I was like, Aimee, let's just speak in 3-letter words for the rest of this conversation. How far does the conversation go? So they shut down, right? And so these kids' eyes have lit up. I've heard behavioral shifts have happened. Kids have just in panic modes been able to like come to a like slow down, calm down. Even kids that are supposedly sensitive with audio and they can't handle intense audio, they've been able to put on headphones. And the parents are like, I don't know, my girl's never ever listened with headphones. She would normally push them off, but they tap in and they light up. I've just had some beautiful experiences so far. And so I've recently piloted a new program where now that I've gotten enough user research from 2 years working with adults and a few kids, I'm opening up this program where they get to create and co-create with me their own custom track and use it as a tool that they have anytime they need. So
yeah, you shared with me a beautiful video of a young man with a pretty severe case of neurodivergence, and he had never really spoken before, and he listened to your track. He was like laying on a couch and his mom played him a track and he said, I love it. And that's pretty amazing.
13-year-old, mind you. And so she's like, he's outgrowing me. He's taller than me now. And all he does is he makes noises, but he doesn't articulate certain, she said maybe like 1 or 2 words that he says that he needs like food or something, but he can't express himself. And yes, the very first time, oh, that's the cutest one too. And we can share that with your audience at some point, but it's like her 2-year-old son happened to pick up a phone and film the moment after this. Can't make it up.
You really can't. I know. Maybe my editor can drop it in here. Otherwise, we'll put a link in our show notes for it.
You got this. We're just gonna activate. Life's gonna get 10 times better for you. Your purpose is here. I see it. I know it. I feel it. Okay. I see you. I see how damn special you are now. I see it. It's like mommy finally understands, baby.
Yeah. So it's amazing. So for someone who's listening who might be curious, but is also grounded and practical, how do you explain your work in a way that's accessible to someone who just knows music affects their mood, but hasn't thought beyond that?
Again, I'm always open to conversations, and the way that I even run my sessions, I definitely am not trying to do the coaching route of things. When I became an entrepreneur, like I thought about coaching because I've always been a coach. But what this is a tool that you can use on repeat and you can use it as you need to. And if you're skeptical, I give you samples and I just tell people like, I could talk about this all day, but until you experience it, you really don't get it. And what's the harm? Just listen. If you don't like it, good. You're not my people either, or maybe you are just not ready for it. That's okay. I'm not trying to sell to everyone, but the amount of people that I have had and seen major transformations in by listening and using it daily, like makes a big difference. And I do these events occasionally. I'm actually trying to start getting in a weekly routine where I do live builds because I build music in this way that's so intuitively quick, and I do it in about 30 minutes, and I build off the collective energy. And so I'll invite people so they're part of like the painter that's starting with a blank canvas, getting to see the whole thing come together. And then I'll do all the filtering process. And those sessions normally are about like 45 minutes of me building. And people that had no idea what they were coming into were like, there's just no words. Like the responses over and over again are amazing. And again, I'm not trying to cater to everyone. I'm not trying to make it anything for anyone, because I had a lot of people try to push me into meditation and meditative music and all that, and I couldn't get down with it. It just wasn't my speed. And so if that works for you, this may not. But for more ADHD, overthinker, anxious brains, neurodivergent brains,
and grief too, and people who are in grief.
Yes. And that one's like, I guess I keep going back to that's the unspoken, because that's where I came from with this. And initially that's all I was focused on. But the beauty has been that like it really is able to take you to a different place, help you feel relaxed throughout your entire body and mind. And yeah, I'm just kind of excited about seeing where the next chapter takes me with everything.
Yeah. And it's like, if you go up on, I went up and explored your website. It looks like you've got a couple of different paths. So there's like the ascend music, and then there's the other music. So and you have a lot of like, so basically people can, it's almost like you can choose your own adventure, right?
So you make that joke, and I don't think we've even talked about this, Aimee, but my favorite thing as a kid was choose your own adventure books. And I've kind of rectified all this, is the fact that like as we're living through life is like that. There are so many different pathways. There's always an ending to the story. The story's already written, but which choices you make lead down what the next part of the narrative is. And so I have all my sites linking into one, but I have chooseyourownhealingjourney.com that will link into the same page. And that's where I don't go and say, hey, I'm going to sell you a $10,000 coaching package. I actually have these 1-hour sessions. And then if you want to work on strategy with me, we actually carve it out very specifically for you. And I give you multiple paths. Do you want this? Do you want that? And we put this together to fit your needs, your nervous system needs, your financial needs, everything. Choose your own healing. Like that's the whole thing. And it's been really cool, because I think I've been sold on so many cookie cutter things since I've been an entrepreneur, and I'm like, I'm tired of this. It doesn't always work for everyone, right? So this is where we actually like kind of tailor that with what I do.
I love it. And then I think you know, focusing on the corporate needs too, because there's that, or also that level that you come from this corporate background and you understand that this could increase communication. So I know I have a lot of friends who are working in that space of, you know, trying to manage at the corporate level. So I feel like that could also be another interesting I know you're already pursuing that, but that seems like another really no-brainer outlet for you.
Yeah, that's been the hard thing. Like, again, having connected as an entrepreneur, when you start making more connections with other like-minded individuals and different people, I worked with user experience design. So I was helping come up with avatars, personas, who the exact user was, what their needs were, and driving a vision towards that. And I was struggling because every time I was like, this is who I'm going to do this for, it'd be a new demographic that would come in and they'd have different results. I'm like, this music meets your nervous system where it is, right? And so I absolutely would love to support the people that are still in the corporate grind, or the ones who have recently lost their jobs, because I've heard from so many colleagues from IBM, AWS, people who went to Google, Meta, and all these layoffs are happening. And I feel like I'm like, hopefully a little ahead of the curve, where I'm like, here, let me give you something to calm down. And if you want to talk about building your business, like, let's talk. It's just been, it's been a journey of like, I cannot narrow this down and niche it down to it's this kind of person that needs it. I've found certain types that absolutely are not my people, and that's okay. But like the kind of responses that people have been so broad and beautiful that I have some of my personal goals, but it is absolutely custom. Like it's all choose your own adventure. So
yeah, I know for us, like I was drawn to you just out of pure curiosity for what you're doing, but you know, we're also in a grieving journey with our family, you know, having lost our Hannah, our daughter's partner of 10 years to leukemia just last November. And so that was amazing to be able to tap into you as a resource for the grief that we're going through as a family. And then, you know, Hannah's youngest is neurodivergent. So also tapping into you for a resource for our little boy who needs to be met where he's at also. So, but you know, that's what meeting you has given me more resources along the way for many different things that we're going through, in life. Life happens. So it's nice to have resources along the way when things go a little off path. It's nice to know that there's somebody there who can help you correct your nervous system along the way. So glad to have you here, Marcie. Thank you for being who you are.
Yeah, and I know you've gone through a lot too, but it's like I keep being guided to more and more people that are basically presenting me with those two bigger categories, the grief category, because I have definitely handled it in a way that a lot of people didn't even understand initially after John passed, how I was able to just connect in certain things. So that's one of the things I can coach people on. If I am coaching, it's more of that. But the music kind of does itself with like the autism and the neurodivergent spectrum. And I feel for you with everything you've gone through and what you keep doing. So impressed to keep meeting wonderfully powerful women who are just continuing to get up and say yes and surrender, even when it does not feel like the right thing to be doing, right?
Yeah, surrender is definitely like my big word for I feel like my 40s has been like this experience in surrender. The more I was talking to Hannah about this, my oldest, my 27-year-old, we were talking about, I was trying to relate how life is like birth and how when you're in the birthing time, the more you surrender to the experience, the more you're like, this is going to happen. This is happening. So I need to just surrender because the only way this ends is when it's over. There's nothing I can think or do that's going to make this end any faster. And in a lot of ways, like when you're in the hard times of life, it's like kind of adopting that mindset of like, yes, this is happening. I'm just going to like experience this and try not to judge the experience, but just let the experience happen. She's just in such a grief state right now. It's so hard to see her almost like struggling. It seems like she's struggling with her grief rather than surrendering to it and just like feeling it and letting it, just be a part of this experience of life that she's having.
Yeah. And I'll just say, again, often as entrepreneurs and whatever you think you can help people with, you shouldn't be out there trying to do anything that you haven't already gone through yourself and found a silver lining or a better way through it. And there's a lot of people that try to sell things that are not that. Initially, that's what I thought this whole thing was about because it helped me so much through my grief with John and this ability to connect into him and realize he just shifted frequencies. Our relationship dynamic changed and I was able to accept instead of be hung up on him not being here. Of course, I'll always miss him being here in person, but I still feel this presence. And so initially and just recently, I've gotten back to doing more custom connection pieces where if somebody is grieving, what's really cool is they're able to hear or feel the frequencies of their loved ones through the song and the passion that I put into it. And it has opened up for people who literally are just begging for a sign. And I've been working with a lady this week who, beautiful story, but she was married for many years, lost her partner 5 years ago, and they were very spiritually connected and tapped in. And she kept saying, I don't feel like he's come to give me any signs. And it's really been hardening my heart. And they actually found out she had physical heart congestion stuff going on, and ironically, like I kind of tapped in that our physical body will reflect whatever's going on with our emotional and mental state, right? And I was able to build a track for her, and I do this session where I listen with them and like really tap into their energy, and she was just blown away. And she said, I felt him in this, I feel him there with me now, and I'm going to stand there and continue to hold her hand because as a pioneer, you never know where things are going to go, but it was beautiful to see this release. And her daughter reached out to me, was like, my mom's more open to things that I've not seen her open to in a long time after working with you. So there is hope. It doesn't make it like go away or easier, but this is a tool that is a great way to just like tune in, tap in to whatever it is that you're needing or feeling is missing so you can stay focused. And I just look forward to being able to help more and more people.
You're awesome, Marcie. Yeah, grief is such a difficult thing, and our culture doesn't have much of a culture around death. So we really don't. It's you.
3 days off after you just lost someone tragically, unless you actually take an unpaid leave or something. So no, there's not a lot that honors it. And again, going back to what we said, grief is not always just about a person leaving the human existence, the earthly plane. It's people that you have to let go of because you've moved on to a different chapter in your life. And that I feel like I've had a harder time with the ones that are still living, that I can't connect with or communicate with anymore, because you still feel like there's an opportunity to work it out, right? So there's a different kind of release with that. Or again, your identity, your corporate career, your place of living. We're always grieving different timelines of what could have happened in the way we visualize things. And one of the biggest things I try to help people do is stay in the now as much as possible. I am not perfect. I definitely go down the path of anxiety of like, but what if this, but the more we can stay now in this present moment, the better, because, we're just predicting a bunch of things and it's never going to go exactly as we see it, but we can point it in a better direction if we're not like going down all of our fears, right?
Absolutely. Well, the conversation I had the week before you, basically will air the week before yours, it was with Deborah Reigel, who was talking about failure and how women need to learn to fail and not take it personally. And a lot of times, like, grief is kind of this form of failure, almost like you lost something. It didn't go the way you wanted it to go, And so you can get like stuck in these like almost like shame loops in your mind. And basically it's like a nervous system cloud storm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, basically you found a method for bringing calm back to the nervous system in a time when basically your nervous system is set on fire by grief.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking how interesting these two concepts are in tandem with one another.
Yeah. I mean, again, music was always a tool for me, and there were certain songs, they're probably the cheesiest songs that for me, there was like something that brought back a good memory that I would return to from like being a kid in the 80s, and there'd be a certain song that just brought back that beautiful spirit of like, I didn't think that anything bad was going to happen to me world. So music has a huge power when it comes to like the psychological. The cool part about this though is actually like the majority of people feel the impact from this. And so yes, it's a tool that I wish I'd had that level when I was going through other things in the past, instead of me ending up spiraling, flipping out, having panic attacks, which I still get emotional. Again, I'm human. But I haven't had that kind of, oh my gosh, panic attack, even in situations that are way worse than some of the things that I used to panic over. So if it's a tool that people can return to and enjoy, and again, it's all over the place with the styles. So if you don't like the typical just healing frequencies, it's a whole different experience. So
I love it. So tell me, what has been the hardest part of going from structured big tech into building something that's entirely your own?
I will say, of all the grief I've gone through, it was letting go of that consistent salary. I'm just being honest.
Yeah. It's true.
That as many people as I've helped, it's also that in the past, outside of I'd do my corporate job and I was good at it, and I would check out, and I was still already coaching people, helping people, giving myself away. And the transition into entrepreneurship was, I'm a pioneer, so I needed to do some of that, but then getting caught up in, I want to help somebody so much that I was giving away everything, and then wondering why I don't have enough coming in. Also being completely turned off by those tacky sales tactics with people trying to throw you the same $10,000 package for, I don't even know what they're selling, and trying to go, that's just so not me. So getting used to actually being able to know that your gift is valuable, your time is valuable, and be able to accept it. Because I was fine taking whatever crazy, and I'd argue my point for a higher salary or a raise in a corporation, but accepting it from people that I'm just feeling very connected to and I want to help. That's been the hardest thing. So anything I can do to help others kind of work through what it took me a long time to work through with that, that's honestly been the hardest part.
Heck yeah. I know. I think that is one of the hardest parts of being an entrepreneur. My mom always said it's better to not do the work and not get paid than to do the work and not get paid. When she made the transition into law, she had a hard time putting a value on her work. She wanted to do the work to help people, but she had a hard time getting paid. And I see that you kind of went through a similar struggle there. But yeah, it's so important. If it's going to be sustainable, you have to know your worth and know that you're worthy and know that you have value and know that your product is important and will be valuable to people and that people will be willing to pay you, and simplifying that too. I think it's going to be great for you, Marcie. I think I told you about the tapping solution once, but I think that you should look into it, creating something like that where people could have maybe a subscription for something that's like standing, because you have so many different tracks that are already created as well. So for the people who maybe can't afford custom tracks, they could do something.
That's actually the cool part, Amy, is like I've had, of course, when this first happened, I just had technological ideas. I did not, again, think I was going to have to go through some of the boot camp of being an entrepreneur and seeing what it's like to kind of go, am I a coach? No, this is not feeling right. But am I, what is this? How does this fit in? Because I'm bridging science, spirit, tech, everything. And I actually have an MVP design, a future design, which I won't get into, for like bigger, amazing technology, like applications. But the MVP would just be, what I do is I build these infinite loops. So instead of like my bigger tracks that are just a natural flow and they might be 5 minutes long and they fade in and fade out, or I build for practitioners and those can be 15 to 55-minute custom tracks that I build. These are infinite loops that are no more than about 3 minutes. But what I do when I have a client come on is I have it so you can't tell once I start where the beginning and end is. And you can play it for whatever length of time that you want. So my MVP app, I've already got the UX down. So once I get the right developer that I can trust to help me build it and launch it, that's exactly the first step that I'm going to do. And so you'll be able to sort by the energy, the frequencies, the pain points, and whatever. And there'll be timers on there. So instead of me saying, here's a 15-minute journey or here's a 5-minute song, these songs can have a timer put on them. So if you want to listen for 15 minutes today or 30 minutes tomorrow, you just get to listen, and then it will fade out when your time is up. And it's been interesting because I do these sessions that are like about an hour, and I typically run the loops when I've built the custom tracks for people for about 30 to 40 minutes, depending on where they are and what I'm feeling. They're all like, that felt really fast. And I'm like, oh, it was a whole 30 minutes. And then I send them a track. They're like, this is a 3-minute track. Where's the 30-minute track? I had to get that down. Now I'm like explaining it's because it's actually a shorter track, but the way I build things and have them ebb and flow, you can't tell. And you feel like it's a journey that's continuously going. And so that's been an interesting one. And so that's what I want to actually put out as my LovEvolve Loops app, which again is 90% there as soon as I get the right development backing to help me with all the back end fun that I don't like, which is funnel stuff and the admin side of things and all that. But yeah,
let's take a look at that, Marcie. Let's see what we can do for you over here. I've got some guides.
Awesome. I would love that because I just need a consultant that I can trust to get it out the door, and it'd be an affordable option for anyone. And that's what I wanted to be able to give it all away for free, but I'm not going back to corporate and I have to make money from this. So This is a nice way that it's an easy subscription. And the cool part is, as much as I make music, you're going to get updates in there over and over again, like at least 2 or 3 times a week, new stuff coming in. So yeah,
I think that is the best case scenario for all of us, that you have an app that we have an easy access to, a super easy entry point. Of course, there are going to be a lot of women that are listening that are like, make me a custom track. I have a neurodivergent child, or I'm grieving the loss of this job or the loss of this person. There's going to be a lot of that as well. But I think having, that recurring income, I feel comforted having the Tapping Solution app on my phone. I got a thumbs up.
Oh, no, I was like, there you go.
But yeah, it gives, and I think having something like your app on my phone would give me comfort too, knowing that no matter when I'm going to go through whatever is going to happen to me, I'm going to have some tool to generate something that will help calm my nervous system for that specific incident, because life happens.
Absolutely. And again, unlike the single frequencies that you can listen to, I called these for a while like frequency cocktails, as in you can mix it up, and so there's all these different combinations. And it's interesting because a lot of music, there are some more electronic artists that are out there that are putting out like it's tuned to 432 hertz. My tracks are elevating everything on a certain level. And then it's like isolating certain combinations. And so it's the difference with what I do and a lot of those is that it's a combination of frequencies that when you put them together, you get the best of multiple worlds, right? It's not just for one thing. So it can have a grounding tone in it and an activation tone in it. So it's the right balance for you, whatever it is. It's a nice mix of like, how do you want your sounds? How do you want your frequencies? So
Yeah. Plus, I love my frequency generator, but it doesn't create an actual sound. It creates a frequency in a room, but you
right.
can't actually listen to it. So I love the idea of being able to listen to frequency, like the way you're creating music around frequency. It just seems so now. Like, it seems like something that I want. I know I want this. So I was so excited when I found you on Threads. I was like, wow, cool. It's exactly what I've been looking for.
Yeah, and honestly, I hadn't even done again, I wasn't into sound healing or any of the stuff that's kind of out there in this new age like therapy or alternative therapy, but the other girl, Kim, my friend who had invited us down the day that John passed, ironically, she never talked about anything spiritual or anything, and she's gotten into sound healing. She does singing bowls and yoga studios. Like, so we were both called into this after this tragedy, and I've actually experienced like receiving the whole like sound healing at her place where it was private, where I was getting the singing bowls, and it does a lot of the same. But I know that for me, I wouldn't feel comfortable or be able to relax if I went to a yoga studio and I'm around a bunch of other people. I don't care. Like, I just can't get into that mental state. So the cool part about this is you put your headphones on, you go into your own private place. Even when I do my sessions with people, I have them go camera off while we're doing the listening. I'm like, I'm not staring at you. You get comfortable, right? So for people who can't necessarily get out or aren't going to pay for like the gym membership, or maybe they paid for a yoga studio, but it's like, again, I got to drive there. This is a tool that operates in a different way. And also I just play it when I'm like making dinner or doing other things. It's like it creates this activation within you without you having to do the work, or you don't have to do a specific thing or be seated a certain way or be at a specific time. So
Yeah, I mean, well, it's so cool to listen to singing bowls, but like I want to be in my room getting ready for bed. So it's nice to have. It's such an awesome tool for us to be able to have. Our lives are very demanding, so it's nice to be able to have something that's more like on demand, when we want it, where we want it, how we want it.
Absolutely. And again, the best thing is for people who have a hard time in the morning, you can set your alarm for a certain time and then know you are not having to jump up with that alarm, set it 15 minutes earlier and just put the music on and lie there through it, right? So it gives you more of that. Or when you're having a hard time falling asleep, do the same thing at nighttime. However you need to use it, it's kind of cool that it'll meet you where you want it. And if you want more upbeat during the afternoon to dance to or work out to, got great workout tracks, so it's not all, mellow. And if you need to sleep, got sleep tracks, all of that.
So all of that music is available on your website, right?
All that music is available. I have access to certain things. I've got some samples if you go to my Electric Blue site, and then I usually do recommendations, but I'm trying to, again, build it all into the application. I do have some presence on SoundCloud, but I'm really trying to kind of create more of these loops that are able to be used by practitioners and people and not be adhering to the 3 to 5 minute range that the rest of my kind of more popular songs are. So
That's so cool. So you and I were talking. So I want to talk tech just for a minute from the entrepreneur side of things. So what are some of your favorite new tech tools that help you run your business? Like the business side of the business, not even the creative side. You and I were talking about finishing our taxes recently, and you found a new one that was really cool.
absolutely. I was dreading doing my taxes, and the last time I had somebody help me, and this time that person didn't come through, and I was panicking because it's the first time I'm actually filing for my business and had taken out other like funds from a stock thing. And I'm like, what am I going to do? There is an app called Keeper, and I just did their like bare minimum. They also have one that approves that you won't be audited. And I'm not a sales rep for this. Don't get any, I'm no affiliation. But what's cool is that it plugs into your bank accounts, your credit cards, whatever you do, and it automatically identifies and then lets you quickly, put in there what your different expenses are and classify those. And it's already kind of pre-registered, and they have a tax accountant look over it before it's sent off. So it was a lifesaver for me. And then I was really upset with myself that I put it off as long as I did, because it wasn't as stressful as I thought it was going to be. The other thing is, when I was at IBM, I was the creative director of Watson AIOps. So I was working with AI tools before it was like ChatGPT in your pocket. I also was UX design. So Figma, now they're charging. I got in before they were charging, but Figma is the UX tool that was like industry standard, what we were using. And they have Figma Make. And if you can be really clear on your creative direction, you can build your own website, hook it up directly to your domain, and be able to quickly offer or anything. You can quickly change it. It's not going to require somebody else keeping up with that. So I've taught a lot of people like a master prompt to use Figma to go ahead and create a website. I'm close there on the application designs, but that one is great if you just want that web presence. And then of course, just for writing, because I am great at short format writing. When it comes to long format or getting my thoughts organized, I've found that Claude is better than GPT, especially with some of the rules. But I've definitely explored so many AI tools that even my partner, Brian, I was like, let's work on your resume. And he was sitting there writing everything by hand. He's been an electrician for years and he hasn't been in the tools and he's intimidated by it. Like that's another thing I help people with from a business stance is how to embrace the AI, how to creative direct with AI. If you need help with that, I got the pointers for like, you go here, you do this. This is how you talk. This is what you do. So I've had a lot of fun with just exploring the right way to use those and not see them as just a chat bot or people that like overly complicated with it, like very basic ways to help you through some of the mundane tasks. So,
well, let's do something together on that, Marcie, because a lot of people have been asking me for exactly that kind of thing. Putting together some sort of a webinar that we can help women embrace this AI technology. That would be amazing. I'd love to do that with you.
I sometimes forget that I'm more advanced in it. Like I feel like I'm not doing enough sometimes. I'm like, I haven't gotten enough done. And like other people are like, I don't even use those. I don't know how to use those. That's a lot. So yeah, I would love to help on that basic level. Even for people, if you're not ready to go to the back end level that I'm hesitant to do with just AI, but like vibe coding, it's a thing where if you have, again, enough of an understanding about the language and how to speak to it and creative direct, you can build an app today if you've got an idea, but it's a matter of like how prescriptive you are on the visual language and all those things that I've known how to do that I can input that, so anything that can help with those things, I would absolutely love to help.
Let's do something. I think we should have like different levels because I have women who come to me who say, I've never used any AI at all. I've never even used chat.
Yeah.
Why, I'm afraid of AI. I'm afraid it's going to change the world. I'm afraid how it's going to influence my kids. Like, so from like the basics of like why we shouldn't be afraid of AI, why we need to embrace the technology. Because if we don't, as women, adopt this technology, the pay gap is going to spread. The gap between men and women is already there, and it will continue to get worse if women don't adopt this technology. And then, giving them the little things, like little simple win, like how can you use chat to help you meal plan with what you already have in your kitchen right now?
That's actually a really fun one. I do a lot of fun recipes and I get it like back. It's like, I've got such a close relationship with my AI tools. They're like roasting me about whatever I say back and forth. We're just in joke land. But
Mine too.
I love to. This is one of the bigger callings, even with Electric Blue communication side of things, is helping people that this world is moving too fast for me, and I'm a tech expert, and I still feel like, how is everyone doing as much as they're doing? How are they keeping up with this? And I would love to kind of bridge that gap and let people have that first experience where it's not intimidating and they're seeing how I interact and what comes back. Favorite part is, let's just talk about the recipe thing for a minute. You can go around in your kitchen and take photos of everything in your fridge, freezer, pantry, all your spices, and then be like, give me 5 meals. I want to include these things for sure, but tell me what to make. And it'll just take the photos and give you recipes. And then you can be like, no, I want a rendition on that. So you just keep creative directing, right? So even if you don't get the perfect answer right away, it's about, nah, I'm going to push back on you. You can do better. And I love to just creatively cook and make up stuff, Brian. I do that all the time. But it's been really fun to see what's come back when we were like, oh, well, how do we save money? Well, we probably have food in this house, but we're looking at it like it's not food because we went through the favorite things we ordered. And how many people have some frozen vegetables or some pasta in the pantry that you just go, there's nothing here to eat. I'm like, I did this to my daughter. I was like, oh, yeah, there is. Look at all these recipes we can come up with what's in here. So I would love to help.
That is so, so cool. I think, we just have to give people one good experience and then you get one little win and then you're like, okay, well, what else can I do with this? So I'd love to do that with you, Marcie. Let's do that for sure. That would be amazing.
Oh yeah, I've tested a lot of things too. So if I can save you from going to the wrong tools for the wrong things, like that's another one, right? Let my failures lead the way, and I'll be like, don't do this. You want this, go there. So yeah, let's definitely set that up, Aimee.
So let's do that. Okay, we'll get something going on the website. If you guys are interested, check out. We'll get something up on themanager.com about that. For the woman in transition, what would you say to the woman who knows she's being called into a new chapter, but it doesn't make logical sense yet?
The main thing is it's never going to make logical sense, and it's about taking one step at a time. And if you're hearing my story at all, then you know you're not alone. I felt very alone initially, and when I started to release some of holding on to past people, past scenarios, I was releasing those things, more and more doors opened up, and they'll open up at just the right time. It can be scary, like when you don't know where things are going, but you feel like you should do this, just know that there are other people out there. And the more you're putting it out there that you need that connection and just looking and expecting to find support and guidance, it's there. When you are going, I don't know, and you're living in that kind of fear state, that's a normal human thing. But fear can create that inaction. And I feel like if you don't try to take on everything that you might be feeling you're meant to do, and just baby step it, just do one little thing, put it out there, connect with somebody, share the topic that you're feeling called to share, and get the encouragement that's out there. Because when, let's just say, leaving corporate, I know I reached out within a big company to a lot of different people when I needed something, strangers, but still in the company. Now, when you're an entrepreneur or you're in this state of mind, you're out of that, the world is your company, realizing like there's no harm. And if you hear no, that's okay. Like, try, put yourself out there, and don't be afraid of the rejection, because again, you miss how many shots, the ones you don't take, right? So
that's right. You miss every shot you don't take. That's right, Marcie. Well, Marcie, you're the best. This was such an interesting conversation because it really lives at the intersection of so many things we care about on this show: reinvention, healing, courage, creativity, and what it looks like to build a life that's more aligned, even when it's less conventional. What I appreciate about your story is that it reminds us that sometimes the most meaningful work does not come from following the expected path. Sometimes it comes from loss. Sometimes it comes from listening more deeply. And sometimes it comes from being willing to trust the thing that you cannot fully explain yet. Thank you for sharing your story, your heart, and this chapter of your work with us. If you want to learn more about Marcie and explore her work, you can visit her website at electricblueunited.com and find her on Instagram at LovEvolve Music. It's LovEvolve Music. She's also on Facebook under LovEvolve Music and Marcie Dean, and on YouTube at LovEvolve Music, and on LinkedIn. So there are plenty of ways to explore her work and follow along with what she's building. We'll link everything in the show notes so you can go deeper in a way that feels right for you. And as always, if this episode resonated with you, share it with another woman who may be in the middle of her own pivot, her own healing, and her own reinvention. Because sometimes the next version of you doesn't arrive in a straight line. Sometimes she arrives through disruption, courage, and learning to trust yourself in a whole new way. Thank you, ladies. I'll see you next week. And thank you, Marcie, for being here today.
thank you, Aimee. This has been awesome.